Hello! In this video, I'm going to show you how you can use software to calculate exact complementary colors, which you can then use to create a color harmony within a particular shot or picture. In today's case, I'm going to be doing a still life of this red pepper. I'm just using this as an example. You can use this technique for absolutely any image, as you will see. Okay, so just pop this camera on here, and I'll just go through what I have set up so far. So here I have a surface. In this case, I'm using just black perspex. Then I have a distance between the back of the black perspex and a piece of grey mount board. Now I'm using grey mount board because it's very easy to then produce a gradient on here with the aid of a light, which I'll come to in a moment. Okay, so the camera, as usual with these things, is tethered, and I have Capture One on this computer. So I'll just start up Capture One, go to the camera, turn the camera on, and there we go. The software has recognized the camera, and obviously I'm using flash today, therefore I'll set a shutter speed which is the flash sync speed for this camera, which is 250th of a second. ISO 100. I'll set the aperture to an arbitrary f11. We'll see how we go as we set this up. Now I tend to, when I'm doing this sort of thing, start at the back, as it were, and work your way forwards as far as lighting it is concerned. And the way this is lit will help the rest of the explanation of color harmony, etc. Okay, so obviously this board is quite a long way back from the subject, which I've done on purpose to give me some room so that I can fit a light in here at the back. So for that backlight, as it were, I'm going to use this. This is a Profoto flash, which I'm just going to place at the back, pointing at the board. There we go. And this is obviously lower than the table height, so it's hidden from the camera view. So that will light up the background and give a gradient on here. Then for a main light for our subject, in this case this red pepper, I'm wanting to have something which is quite harsh, so I end up with a highlight. I particularly want to have a highlight, and I want to saturate the colors. So in order to do that, I'm going to place another light about here somewhere. So I'll just get that. And this is another Profoto. There we go. So we'll pop this about here. Neither of these are actually turned on at the moment. Because as usual, one of the first things that I would like to do is just make sure that the ambient lighting in here, we have all the studio lights on, etc., isn't affecting the shot at all. So I'll just run a test, just with no flash. And there we go. Doesn't look like there's very much there. There's a few little highlights caught from the tri-light, but by the time we've moved everything in, we should be fine. Okay, so let me just line this up. Right, so in here, on the camera, I have a 24-70 zoom lens. So I'm just going to move that out to the 70 end. Okay, and just set that up like so. Just focus that on the pepper. And we'll just run another test just to make sure that we're actually getting a blank frame, which we are. I think you can see from the software here, there is nothing. Okay, so time to add a flash trigger. I'm using this little remote, which I can just put on the top of the camera here. Turn that on. And now I'll turn the flash units on. I'm not going to turn this one on just yet. I'm just going to turn on the one that's at the back here, which is just down here. Okay. So I'll just make sure that that is actually talking to the trigger. I'm just going to test. There we go. And again. Yeah, that seems to be fine. Okay, so I'm now just going to run a little test just to see if I've placed that light in the right place. Right, so you should be able to see on the screen here that we have a silhouetted pepper, but the backlight that I have to me is far too bright. So we'll just turn the energy down. I'll take it down by a couple of stops actually, I think. 1, 2. So we'll try that at 2 stops down. And yes, getting there, but I'm not getting enough of a gradient. So what I think I might do is just adjust the reflector just to make it a little tighter. So I'm just moving the reflector forward, like this. Let's lock that there. And we'll just give that a bit of a try. Okay. Ah, yes, now that's looking quite a lot better. So this is now starting to get there. It's graduating off from the corners all the way down to where the silhouette of the pepper is. But it's still ever so slightly bright, I think. I'm just going to take another stop off that. Okay. Yes, that's getting there. So for this purpose, what I'm actually trying to achieve is a graduation from the corner to the center. And although that graduation is grey, I'll show you later on when we come to the Photoshop part of this video how that can be coloured. Okay. So as far as the shot that we're putting together here is concerned, the background is more or less done. What we need to do now is concentrate on the main subject. So now I'm going to turn on this other flash. Okay. And since the one at the back is already set, I'll just do a test and see just where we are with this. Need quite a lot more energy by the look of things. So we'll wind that up by 3 stops. And it's starting to get some colour into it. Also on this one, I think I will just adjust the reflector here so that we can concentrate. There we go. Concentrate the beam somewhat. And just to help me, I'm just going to turn the modelling light on this flash so I can actually see what it's going to do. That's one of the main advantages of having Studio Flash as opposed to a speed light, is that you can actually see what's going to happen before it happens by using the modelling light. Okay, so that looks about right. Let's just give that another test. Yes, that's getting there. So I've ended up with a highlight just on this corner, which is what I want. And we've saturated the colour, but I think it's still a little dark. I think I still need a bit more. So I'm just going to increase the energy on that unit by a stop. There we go. That's better. But I think the highlight is just in the wrong place for what I want. So I'm just going to move it by moving the light, which will move the highlight round further forwards. Let's try that again. There we go. Let's spread it out somewhat. A bit of experimentation to get these sort of things right. Now that's better from the highlight point of view we've got on here, but now this side's pretty dark. So what I think I might do is actually turn this round a little more. Like that. And place some form of reflector about here somewhere. So this is just the center of a piece of mount board cutting. If you saw the video about how you mount a print, you end up with quite a lot of these from time to time, but they do make quite good flags or reflectors. So what I'll do is just clamp it to this piece of wood and use that as a reflector just to fill in the shadow side of this image. Okay, so just pop that on there. Right, well that's starting to get there, but this isn't quite working the way that I want. I think the reflector is actually a little too small, so we need something a bit bigger. You just move that out of the way. Okay, now here I have a full-size sheet of mount board. So I'm just going to hold this in position like that, and just trigger the camera. There, that's given a better reflection. It's still a little dark, it probably needs a bit more energy, but if I switch between these two, you should be able to see that on this one, this is much more graduated, whereas here we just have two spots. Okay, so I'm just going to increase the exposure by maybe half a stop. Like that. And we'll just give that another test. Get this board in. Like so. There we are. That's much better. Okay, so on here we have our red pepper, and we've filled this side in. In fact, what I will do is just do one without the fill in, just to show you the difference. There we go. So that's with the fill, and that's without it. Actually, I'm actually preferring the one without it now, but there you go. In fact, what I think we'll do is just take that half stop back off here. There we are. Put the board in again, but this time I'm not going to hold it quite so close. So somewhere like that. There we are. Yeah, I think that will do for our purposes today. Okay, so I'm just going to put a mark on that one. Just export it. There we go. And now move on to Photoshop. There we go. All open. Okay, so this is the image as taken. So what we need to do is, first of all, just sample this part of the pepper here, so we get an idea of the actual colour. So in order to do that, I will just use the eyedropper. And normally, when you're using the eyedropper, it will give you a sample which is one specific pixel. So for instance, if I just place this over the highlight there, it's actually white, not red. And that's okay, but it's not very good for this particular application. So I'm going to increase the sample size to a 5 by 5 average. So now it will average over a grid of 5 by 5 pixels. So it's nowhere near as sensitive as it was before. So I'll pick a red which is somewhere here, like that. Right, now if I go to Window up here and go to Extensions, there is an extension called Adobe Color Themes, which is what I want, which will open this little box on the side here. So if I just pop that in Wheel, over here we have a little icon, and if you click that icon, you can see that you have various different ways that you can pick a different type of color harmony. Analogous, which will give you a series of colors which are very close. monochromatic, which will give you the same color but in different luminosities. The standard triad, but for simplicity and to show you how it all works, I'm just going to use complementary colors. So these are on the opposite sides of the color wheel. Okay, so what I need to do is to find a way that I can get the red, which I have picked over here, into this. And that is relatively straightforward because I have picked on the red pepper, which has given me a foreground color which is red. So I can then just use that as the pick, which it has given me there. So that's telling me that the complementary color to that red is this color here. And it's given me a choice of different luminosities. So if I just pick the middle one as a for instance, I can then use the swap key there. Just click on that once, and so the foreground color has now gone to the background, and the background color is now clear. But I can then load that with the color from here. So now I have that as a green. Okay. So one of the things I like to do is just make a duplicate layer. Not essential, but it's just a nicety. And we now need to think of a way that we can get the complementary color into our picture. There are two different ways to do the same thing here, and these techniques work better or worse or dependent upon what the picture is actually made of. You'll see what I mean as I carry on. As far as the color themes are concerned, we're nearly finished with it. I'm just going to go over to where it says sliders here, because under HSB, this will give me the hue, and it's only the hue that I'm interested in. So we have a hue of 137. So 137 is the complementary color. No guessing, it has actually worked it out for that part of this pepper. Okay, so with all that in mind, one of the first ways to do this would be to go to Adjustments, pick on Hue and Saturation, click the little Colorize button, and set the hue value to 137, like that. So that's fine, but it's actually covered the whole image. So it's given me the green tint that I want in the background, but it's covered the rest of the pepper as well. I just click on the mask here, and then just click on Color Range. I can bring up the color range sliders here. And just with these controls, I can add some masking to that, like so. Maybe increase the fuzziness a bit. Ooh, not too far. Click on OK, and there you go. So what that has done is that has given me a mask which exactly matches this graduation which I put on in the studio. And you can see that the graduation has now taken on the complementary color which I added to it in the layer. Now doing it this way means that you have an awful lot of control, because we still have all the hue and saturation sliders available within this layer. So for instance, if I wanted to take the saturation down a little, I can do that. Or if you want to take it up, you can do that too, but I wouldn't go too far because it tends to not look very realistic. I can also alter the lightness, so I can take that down a bit in the middle. That's probably an advantage for this particular shot. That seems to have worked quite well. There we go. And just change the saturation a little. Okay, that's all working quite well. You might notice that just here there seems to be something weird going on. Let me just zoom into that bit for you. And that is an artifact caused by the way that we made this mask. But this is just a normal mask. There's nothing special about this. So if I want to just retouch this mask, I can. So I'll just set the foreground and background colors to black and white, change to black, find a brush of an appropriate size. That's not bad. And we'll just paint that in black. And again, it's just picked a little bit up on the stalk as well. There we are. Take that back again. Okay. And that is one way that you can use the complementary color as calculated by the Adobe color wheel. But there is another way to do it as well. So now I'll show you the other method of doing the same thing. So I'll get rid of this hue and saturation layer. Pop that in the bin. Now another way that you can do this is, so with the foreground color set to the color from the Adobe color themes, I'm just going to add a layer and just use the paint bucket tool just to fill that layer with that color. Just turn that off for a second. Then I'm going to add a layer on top of that. Go to select, go to color range. We'll just tighten that up a bit. There we go, something like that. Click on OK. Then come back down to the previous layer, the green one, and just add a mask. And this will pick out the masking that you had from the top layer. So we'll just get rid of that one because we no longer need it. And there we have a different version of the same thing. This is a lot coarser, as you can see from the image here. You can, of course, turn down the opacity, which I will do, just to back it off a little, but it's still a bit more coarse. But for some subjects, this version does actually work better than the previous version. So if I now just bring in our color harmony 1, like so, you can see the difference the two different techniques make. Now I think that this is by far a better way. This is a fairly rudimentary still life that we've picked here for the example, but it does show just how you can use automatically generated color harmonies just by using the Adobe color wheel. So I hope that again has been some interest to you, and we'll see you in the next one.